let's look at more of the analytical features of the materials management engine. This is really where I think the system really starts to shine and really becomes valuable. To point, we've looked at a lot of the setup and how to use the system, but the analysis is where it gets fun. It's really one of my favorite areas of the software, the application. Let's look at the Movement Explorer in this particular example. The goal of the Movement Explorer is to show you through a date range how items are flowing into or out of the company, or in fact between locations through transfers. But essentially that's its goal, is to show you that, hey, between these two dates, which are definable in the header as you see, which I can change that. I can say, between this date and that date, show me how these items are moving into and out of the company. And where this really helps is to identify trends. So if I want to say, show me in the second quarter of the year or the first half of the year how these items are moving, I can start to see trends. How is the Chef Anton's gumbo mix moving? Are we improving sales or are we decreasing sales? So some of the information could be found in the sales module, but from materials management's perspective, that's where the rubber hits the road. This is analyzing actual transactions. So these are actuals, perhaps more empirical than some of the stuff in the other modules. But you could get similar information from those other areas. Now, so again, we discussed you could change the date ranges. And in fact, I'm going to change my date range. I'm going to go a little further back in time. I'm just going to say 2010 so we can get some annual totals and things like that. So bear with me here. So let's let that refresh. So now I'm seeing from 1st of 2010 up until today's date, 11/15/2013. Now, at first, this screen is a little elusively simple, but it's actually very powerful in some of the things you could do with it. By default, I can easily see now that, hey, for Chef Anton's gumbo mix, I've got 569 in stock. Great. That's how many we've received through this particular date range. I could also analyze releases through that date range, or in fact compare receipts to releases and sort of see how we're doing there. But there are a lot of other ways I can slice and dice this information. Any of the items that you see along the top or in any of these areas can be dragged and dropped into the other areas to look at the information differently. So it's one thing to know that, hey, for Chef Anton's gumbo mix, I've got 569 in stock. That's really good. Or that I've released 569 or received 569 through this date range. But show me by location where those receipts happen. So now I can see that through this date range, here's what we've received for Chef Anton's gumbo mix. We've received 256 in Hong Kong, 116, 98, etc., 99 in Seattle. So it's clear to me that I'm receiving a lot more of these in the Hong Kong warehouse than any other location. And in fact, if I wanted to stack up a goods release, meaning that show me the items that we sell, I could also analyze that sales information as well. I could also look at that in another of different ways. I could say, show me that same information by year. So now it's going to stack that same information year over year, and if I drop it properly, we'll be doing good. So now I'm going to take that same information and look at it year over year. So in 2011 in Hong Kong we did 161 of the Chef Anton's gumbo mix. That was actually way up from that same period in 2012 where we only received 47. So you can kind of see how this information is starting to stack together, and there's really a lot of ways you can drag and drop these elements to look at the information differently. I may want to say, show me the status of the items that we received. Were they all available to promise? Well, as it turns out, let's see. No, we've had a few pending quality. We had 50 cranberry sauces in the San Diego warehouse that were pending quality inspection that were not available to promise through that date range. So you kind of get a sense of how you can configure these elements and how you stack them up. It's almost endless. And each of these different scenarios become very valuable information. You could look at certain inventories. You could look at the year, quarter, or month, so time frames. You could look at the category of items, the storage units, so the items within the locations, specifically which shelves were the highest moving shelves. That could help with warehouse optimization. Which bins, if you really want to get that granular, what statuses and which amounts. I could also stack up the dollar amount, not just the quantity, but show me the cost in that same screen. So not only can I see how many we've received, but I also know what the cost was. So using these screens, you can do a lot of information. Another thing, too, that you can do down at the bottom that we talked about before was stack this information and look at it in a different way. So I'm going to simplify this screen a little bit. And in other lessons we looked at this, but if I see some anomalies, I can use the grid down below to turn certain elements on or off if I'd like. And I'm going to put these all back, but I think you get the concept of how that works. And then another form of graph may illustrate this information in a better way. So by looking at line graphs, I could see, wow, this particular item, this particular beverage is going up in London. London is the highest seller, but I could see that in Hong Kong, the Chef Anton's Gumbo Mix is the highest amount of receipts for that area. So some forms of graph may actually serve better to illustrate what you're looking to achieve. So you can stack it up that way. Again, I could just go through changes to an area graph and really start to do some comparatives. When I start stacking in, receipts to releases and actuals to budgets, which I can do here, I can really start to ask any types of questions I want of the system and find the information that I need.